What is the buy, refurbish, rent out, refinance strategy? What's it all about and how can you benefit from it? Quite simply, the idea is you buy a property that's stinky, horrible, falling to bits, needs a bunch of work. You buy it at a discount. So don't forget the discount bit, because just because a property needs work doesn't mean it's actually well priced. So you need to secure a discount on it. So you do a refurbishment, you rent it out, you refinance that property on its true new market value, post-works market value, and you pull out the money that you initially invested in the first place. So you recycle your cash to go again onto the next deal. So utilizing this very powerful investment strategy, you can buy multiple properties with the same pot of capital. You can buy it over and over again. So how does it work? How does that actually work in practice? So you buy a property. I'm going to use easy maths for this illustration. You buy a property for 50 grand. Now, if you're watching this in London, I know you can't buy a property in 50 grand, but I moved to the Northeast years ago to build my high yielding buy-to-let property portfolio, especially with interest rates going up as much as they have in the recent years. I'm very glad I'm building my portfolio here because the yields are strong enough to make buy-to-let work even now. Whereas a lot of areas in the country, the yields just simply don't stack up. So I'm going to use an example here. You buy a property for 50 grand, which is possible up here. Property that needs a bunch of work. You're going to renovate that property. So you paid 50 for it. You spend 20 grand on the refurbishment. You've got stamp duty. You've got buying costs. You haven't got selling costs because you're going to hold this property for the long term. So you buy it. You've all factors included. So all costs included. Let's say for easy maths, you're all in for 75 grand. If you then apply for a mortgage on the new market value, let's say that new market value is 100 grand, then you'll typically be looking at a loan to value of around 75% with a typical buy-to-let lender. So loan to value, quite simply, is the amount of money that you're borrowing relative to the value of the property. So let's say 75% gives you a loan of 75 grand on the new value. So if you're all in the spend of 75k, that means you get every penny back out that you've invested in that deal originally. It means you can recycle all of your cash, go again and buy another property with the same funds that you used for this current purchase. So that's an incredibly powerful strategy to recycle your cash, build long-term wealth through building a buy-to-let portfolio. Now, in order to make it work, of course, you have to make sure you've got a significant discount on the purchase of that property. You've got to make sure that you've refurbished the property appropriately, so it's right for the quality of the property, it's right for the area, you've not cut corners, so you can get that true market value on the end. You need to make sure you've got enough in that deal to make it worthwhile. Now, what happens if you go to get a market value on the property and the valuer that comes out says, well, it's only worth 95, not 100. Well, that means you're going to leave a bit more money in that deal. So it's not the end of the world, arguably. It depends how much cash you have available. But the idea is behind this, you get all the money out if you can. But if it doesn't happen, not necessarily the end of the world. Depends how much cash you have available. Depends on personal preference. Bear in mind, though, more money that you leave in to a property, so you're not pulling it out, as it were, on the new loan, the higher your cash flow, the higher your profit's going to be. So you compromise a little bit of money that you could then use to reinvest, but you also gain it back on the cash flow. So really, it's not the end of the world. But the idea is that you are not going to be leaving this whole amount of cash into the deal, because that will limit you on the next one, because those funds could be used to buy the next property. So this is the principle behind the buy, refurbish, rent out, refinance strategy. Done well, it can be amazingly powerful at building a property portfolio, especially if you have limited funds and you need to ensure that you are recycling your cash and going on to the next one. So a couple of things to bear in mind. If you're buying stinky, horrible, smashed up, beaten up properties like I do, then in most cases, lenders don't want to lend on those properties. They're not in a habitable condition. So a traditional buy-to-let lender would decline that mortgage because of the condition of the property. So if you're buying a stinky, horrible property like that, just bear that in mind. It's probably not worth wasting money going and paying for a survey for them to come out and say it's too stinky and horrible for us to lend on it. So just bear that in mind. So typically, if the property does need a lot of work, you'll be utilizing bridging finance. Bridging lenders are a little bit more happy to lend on a property that needs a lot of work, so they're okay with that. And so bridging is a short-term lending solution. So you won't want to be holding that property on a bridging loan for very long. You'll be putting it onto a mortgage after the works are complete, but it allows you to get into the deal. So bridging finance is one option. Private finance is another option. Of course, if you've got cash to buy cash, you can do that as well. Great. But you'll need to buy in a situation or a way that will allow you to do the works and then put it onto a mortgage lender for long term. So if you are basically doing that, you'll then refinance onto the lender as soon as the works are done, and then you go forward from there. So hopefully this video is useful in some way for you. If it is, go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel, and then you'll see me again in the next one. Thanks for watching.